This is the hard part. Get everybody to sit down. Come on, you can do it. Mississippi in the house, all right? Woo woo. You Mississippi. Who else do we have? We have California in the house. I say yes. Noel, oh no, you're Oregon. Florida. Okay, Florida. Florida. Who's here? Texas. Connecticut. New York. Carolina. Oh, South Carolina, Colorado, Iowa. I know Ohio. I sat with Miss Ohio. Arizona. Anyone? Oh, Canada. Do we have Canada in the house? Woo, woo. Are you the only Canadians? No. All right. Any other states? Shout it out. California, Alabama, I heard. Kansas, Arkansas. Go Niners. Oh, woo, woo. Okay, I'll have my panelists come on up to the front as we get started. Did everybody have a good morning? Let's shout it out for all the speakers. So fun. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. I'm Julie Gordon-White. I'm the founder and CEO of MenoWell, menopause energy and protein bars, and those bars in that little tumbler so you can keep hopefully water or whatever you need while you're here in that cup. I created them for myself at 55 because I'm 5'1". I gained 10 pounds. I felt just not, like out of body. I didn't feel confident. You see, I'm a easygoing, fun person, but I didn't feel like myself. I wasn't getting the nutrients that I needed, and I needed to do something about it. And I had one of those moms that said, never HRT, never HRT. So I didn't even know that was an option for me. So I sought a natural way to help balance my blood sugar. And the bars have a transition trifecta, we call it, with maca. Anyone heard of maca? It's a Peruvian root known to help balance blood sugar over time. Every bar has 25 to 32% of your daily fiber. And if you follow Mary Claire, you know fiber is our BFF, right? Woo, woo, woo. And then, of course, we need our protein, 7 or 8 grams in each bar. But, oh, did I say they're an Oprah Daily Best Menopause product too? Right? All right. So the thing I didn't know when I started the company, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and when I find a problem and I want to solve it and make an impact in the world, I just create a business around it. But what I didn't know when I started the company was that these bars have become a talking stick. Because every time you or another woman takes them out of their bag and another woman says, "What's that?" you have now become a catalyst for this conversation. Because it's up to us to at least, but I'm going to challenge you to do a little bit more, +1 or +5, this conversation after you leave here on this trip, okay? And the bar can help you as a talking stick. All right, now the last thing, you don't need to do it this minute, but you got to follow us on Instagram because every Tuesday I do a show called Meno Lounge Talks, and the Mississippi ladies over there have been watching the Meno Lounge. Dr. Mary Claire's been on the Meno Lounge, Dr. Vonda's been on the Meno Lounge, and we speak to doctors, advocates, fitness, nutrition, and they're all recorded on the page so you can learn about different topics. Recently, we did a whole thing on Ozempic, which that's a whole thing. So make sure you follow us at MyMenoWell on Instagram and TikTok. And last but not least, if you DM me, because I do all the engagement, I look at everything, it'll be me, and just put pause life, I will send you a promo code for 30% off all boxes. That ends Noel on our team right here. Say hi, Noel. February 12th. But if you decide to subscribe, 1 box, 4 boxes, a lot of women like a full month's supply. They don't want to run out. 30% off for 1 year, okay, on all subscriptions. So that's it. Let's do the thing. Speakers, come on up. Dr. Corrine, Dr. Sharon McCloskey, Dr. Vonda. So our topic today is menopause symptoms and systems, but I always have to do things a little bit my way. So I'm like, okay, this is what I really want the audience to know. What do people with uteruses have, vaginas have in menopause? Questions that they ask all of you all of the time. Mary Claire, are you coming up? Sorry, YouTube. Dr. Mary Claire. She's sitting back there. I'm like, we're missing someone. The big boss. She's working. She's doing a reel back there. Someone's here? So what do people ask you? What do women ask you all the time about menopause? And that is what we're going to jump into right today. So I'm going to ask a question, then I'm going to ask everybody to raise their hand if they had this question too, okay? So Dr. Mary Claire, before we start, we love Dr. Mary Claire. We know Dr. Mary Claire. We know Dr. Corrine and also Dr. Vonda you met this morning. I don't want to miss out on this little bright sunshine doctor right here, Dr. Sharon. So let me go here. Of course, you know when you have it right here and then it goes away. Here we go, Jen. I think it's important to understand and listen to women's bios because especially at midlife, we've worked really damn hard to accumulate these things. And yours might say mom, wife, doctor, whatever it is, but we earned our bios. So we're going to make sure we give Sharon her time too. So Dr. Sharon McCloskey is a native Texan who's deeply committed to healthcare. She obtained her undergraduate degree in biochemistry from Texas A&M University and pursued her medical degree at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston. Graduating, wait for it, Alpha Omega Alpha Honors. Woo woo, Dr. Sharon. Dr. McCloskey completed her residency in obstetrics and gynecology at UTMB in Galveston. Since 2001, Dr. McCloskey has proudly served the West Houston community. She's been a part of the Greater Houston OBGYN LLP for almost 20 years and has had the privilege to work alongside 5 other exceptional OBGYN physicians and her long-term dedicated staff. Dr. McCloskey is passionate about caring for women of all ages and stages in life, focusing on preventative health and minimally invasive surgery. I'm tipping with the ship here. As a physician, she prioritizes spending quality time with her patients and offering the latest information on treatments. It's a wife and a mom of daughters. Is that right? So let's give a shout out to all the women and celebrate their bios. Okay, without further ado, as I like to call you, MCH. What the heck? Now, we had a panel, but what the heck is happening in menopause? And what are the most common symptoms women actually complain about?
So we have the symptoms that are most classically recognized as menopausal.
Oh, sorry, Mike, hold it on.
Hello?
Hold for a few seconds. Take it.
Let's grab a chair.
Go ahead, I'm good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is part of the problem about menopause, is we have the classically recognized symptoms of menopause only because they're hard to blame on something else. Unless you have tuberculosis, you're not going to have hot flashes. Okay? And so you're coming in complaining of hot flashes, and the only thing the doctor can pin it on, it's a moving tail on what's a tail on a moving donkey, is, well, that's menopause. Okay. So turns out when some of these bigger telemedicine companies who are actually collecting data look at what we see, and I think I got this from Alicia, that, weight gain, easy to blame that on everything else in the world. Okay. Hot flashes is up there, but fatigue, sleep disruption, musculoskeletal pain. I mean, these are the actual things that women are complaining of at a, way, way higher level that often get dismissed or attributed to just aging or something else.
Awesome. Anyone want to add anything to that? No. Okay. All right. Dr. Sharon, what are hot flashes? Why are they so bothersome? That's a nice word. And I'm afraid I'm at risk for breast cancer, so I don't take hormones. That was a question.
So the number one symptom of menopause is always talked about is hot flashes and sweats. And so I think it is one of the most bothersome, but many other symptoms. Okay. And so, what happens is there's a temperature regulation problem in the brain, and your body heats up centrally and then is off balance and tries to cool down quickly. And so that's why the sweats are there. And it can happen, of course, day or night. Hot flushes during the day, night sweats at night, but it's all the same mechanism of what's happening. And so, what is that doing to us? I mean, it's affecting us across all aspects it's emotionally affecting, psychologically, and then of course the physical aspects. And so when you guys probably know what is it. I mean, you could have a slight little flush, or you can have this huge chest redness, feeling like going through your neck up into your face, and you just visibly sweat. You feel like you want to change your clothes, go take a shower. And it can be embarrassing or just interfering when you're trying to live your life, work, take care of kids, actually go out and have a good time, and these things happen and you feel miserable. Again, it can be mild or severe, but it's part of what we go through. Um, when it happens at night, it's one of those things that is one of the bigger reasons why sleep is interrupted. You can't get back, to sleep, and then of course that's a big part of our health. Um, like I said, it just affects all aspects of our life. And so, not to harp on hot flushes and sweats because there's so many other symptoms, but it is a big part that starts the conversation with your physician.
Really good.
Oh, and then about breast cancer, I think it's been said well enough, but hormones do not cause breast cancer.
Yeah.
Period.
So who's interested in hot flashes? Is that a big issue for you or not? Oh, everyone in this room's on HRT. No.
Right. Right.
Okay, no one's asked this question. Who's perimenopausal? Do we? Does someone want to share the definition of perimenopause? Because someone said, I think I'm perimenopausal.
So, menopause, unfortunately, is defined as 1 year after your last menstrual period. I'm fighting to have that definition changed. It's actually the beginning of your ovarian failure. Sounds scary and horrible, but that's what it is. And perimenopause is the transition when your body recognizes. I mean, we basically are going into ovarian failure from the day we're born, okay? Because we're born with all of our eggs. And from that moment of those eggs being formed when we're in utero, they start disintegrating and their quality of they start declining. And so your body recognizes that something ain't right, typically 7 to 10 years before that period stops or your formal menopause. And that is when you're perimenopausal. Again, only defined by symptoms and not by endocrinology, which I think is a mistake.
And shout out for the post women. Can you tell us so then?
Yeah, so you're menopausal forever. And so menopause is 1 day, and then from that day to the rest of your life, you are postmenopausal, symptoms or not. Your bones are still deteriorating. Your brain is still taking a hit. Your vagina will not forgive you if you don't do something about this, okay? And so, you can benefit from replacing those hormones for the rest of your life. Your bones will always benefit. Your vagina will always benefit from it. So, and your bladder and the whole genital urinary system.
Thank you. That's really important. So, anybody else post besides me in this room? Okay, that's what I want to see. Post sisters. Okay. All right, Dr. Corrine, here was a question. Why am I so tired all the time? I just don't feel like myself anymore. And what about heart health? Does anyone here have that question? What about heart health? Everybody better be raising their hand right now. It's the number one killer taker out of us. So, okay, Dr. Corrine.
Well, obviously, if you're being woken up in the middle of the night from a hot flash, you're not going to get good sleep, and you're going to be tired the next day. But it's really fascinating. Vasomotor symptoms are not just mere benign nuisances. There's actually data that even if you're not woken up by your hot flash, they can actually measure subclinical vasomotor symptoms, and they've done this. And they can see that when you're having subclinical hot flash, you're not even being woken up, you're having a disruption in your deep sleep, your REM sleep. So you can actually, obviously, then you'll be more fatigued during the day. And your body perceives that as a stress, And so when you're stressed, your cortisol levels are higher, you're more tired during the day, and that's part of the fatigue. But the estrogen deprivation is affecting every body system. Like Dr. Vonda talks about, you're losing skeletal muscle, your metabolism is changing. You're, storing your body fat in a different way, more visceral fat. These things are metabolically changing you in a way that adds to the fatigue. So it's not just being woken up at night by a bothersome hot flash. And it's interesting, vasomotor symptoms, even subclinical ones, have a direct correlation with all of the negative biomarkers for cardiovascular disease. So higher triglycerides and lipid abnormalities, inflammation, coronary artery calcium deposits. So I like to say vasomotor symptoms are a canary in the coal mine for cardiac health. And the only thing in the world actually that's been shown to decrease cardiac mortality from a drug standpoint in women as primary prevention is HRT. People don't know that statin therapy does reduce your cardiac mortality as a secondary prevention. So if you've already had a heart attack, and it will work for primary prevention for men, but it has never ever been shown to work for primary prevention for women. I'm not saying you shouldn't use a statin, but understand that estrogen is the only drug that's actually been shown to lower your risk of cardiac death by up to 40%.
That's huge. Huge, huge.
Can I add two things about why you, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you have no energy and you feel like you're dying other than sleep, right? So I'm not talking about this today, but there is a enzyme in your body called NAD+ that is important for 450 metabolic pathways in your body. We naturally decline in those in our 20s. So if as we age, we do not replace NAD+, you will still bottom out in mid-afternoon. And so when I measured my NAD+ at first, it was 18, youthful is 60. So that's another reason. Number two is how you eat. If you have a bedtime snack or a very late dinner, if you have a bedtime snack and it's a simple carb sugary snack, your body will spike. And then at 3:27, which is my time, but it's always around then, I'm not kidding, right? Your body will wake you up because your blood sugar has dropped to like 59. And I know that because I'm a data freak. Look, Mary Claire and I are wearing CGMs. We're not diabetic, but this has taught me what I'm doing in the middle of the night. So if you're going to have a snack, have a savory snack with protein so that it does this instead of your body to save your life is waking you up. So isn't that interesting? And if you're European, and you choose to eat your dinner at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and then you go to bed, for 3 hours, all the energy and focus in your body is in your gut to digest that load versus allowing you to pass into the parasympathetic sleep thing. So those are important also, in addition to the estrogen.
Well, hang on to the mic, Dr. Vonda. Before we start, why don't you tell everyone how old you are? Go ahead.
If you are on Instagram with me, you know how old I am.
Hold your mic up.
Right. Oh,
How old are you?
I'm about to turn 57. Well, how's
Yeah.
that relative?
Okay, because
Relevant.
this is what's important, because what I'm going to ask you, people ask about lifting weights. So a lot of women, we tell women lift weights and lift heavy. And women say, but I'm in my late 50s. It's too heavy, and I
Is it
don't
too
want to look
heavy?
like a bodybuilder, right?
it
I don't
too
want to get
heavy?
bulky. So
it too
how do you
heavy?
answer that? At 57, can we lift heavy weights? What are heavy, and are we going to get bulky?
So in my talk coming up next, I'm going to show you several examples of women in my life that have totally transformed their health, their bodies, their lean muscle mass. Some did it with HT, some did it just lifting heavy and counting macros. There is not an age where you cannot build muscle, but there is an age where you won't have enough muscle to stop yourself from falling down in your kitchen and breaking your hip.
Write that down.
So any age can build muscle, whether Mary Claire wears this vest all the time for home torture, or I'm schlepping
Right.
around plates of iron, or there's never an age where you cannot build muscle mass. So heavy is heavy to you, meaning what you can lift 4 times with good form. There is no role, in my opinion, or the research of Stacy Sims that shows that mamby-pamby pink weights are going to do anything for you. You must lift heavy to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. And don't worry, you're not going to bulk up like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're just not. You're going to be
Unless you
lean.
want to.
You could, but you won't unless
Right?
you want to be a true bodybuilder.
Or yeah, there's a lot of women in
You will
fitness
become
contests in
lean.
their 50s and 60s. So
Yes.
don't be afraid. And you can work your way up. And lift heavy doesn't mean go in the gym and start picking up 50-pound dumbbells. If you're at 5 pounds, lift 5 pounds for a week and then try 7 pounds the next week and then try 8. So
But
you want
not for 15 reps for 4 sets.
No.
If it's that easy, level
move
up.
up, sister. Right. Exactly. Progressive overload. That's what builds muscle. Okay, MCH. What are the most surprising symptoms you discovered while researching for the new menopause book? Because I see you've added on to the core 34, as I used to say.
Vertigo, tinnitus.
Ooh.
So in the research that I found that the otoconia, the little crystals that break off in our ear that cause the dizziness that, break off a lot easier because we're losing bone. It's really, the data is there, and yet ENTs and, what's the word, the ear specialist, hearing specialists, it's not being put in front of
Audiologist, yeah.
them. Audiologists, excuse me, pardon me. Audiologists aren't recognizing this. So I think that the things in the inner ear really shocked me. And then when I say something like that on social media, the world explodes, and like 10,000 women are like, oh my God, thank you for telling me I'm not crazy. That there's a reason. Now what do we do? And I'm like, well, we need more research. But there is definitely, those were two of the, and frozen shoulder, that one exploded the internet. That broke the internet. Yeah. So
Mhm. Frozen shoulder. All right, excellent. Anyone else want to add to that? Are you doing good?
That was exactly my symptoms of menopause. Dizziness, vertigo feeling. And
did you gaslight yourself for a minute?
No, I was clueless for, for a little while. So it's amazing.
Anyone else have tinnitus? Well, I always say tinnitus. Yeah, I have it too. I got it postmenopausal. I call it like it reminds me that I'm a high vibe person. Like, wow, Californian. Okay. Dr. Corrine, do women see mental health and mood changes during menopause? Anyone raise their hand? Anyone got that? You got that? Who's got
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think that's where the misogynistic term hot and bothered, came from, and it's,
Oh.
it's super under recognized. And I think it's one of the number one perimenopausal symptoms that we see. Estrogen is a master regulator of neurons in the brain. It's a messenger. It helps stabilize your brain cells. When you add in already sleepless nights, disrupted sleep, anxiety from the drop of the estrogen or the fluctuations and the loss of progesterone, you have a real perfect storm. Add that on top of all the midlife stresses that we already have. But perimenopausal mood disorder, it's a real thing. It's in the literature. And again, if your doctor doesn't believe you, really, the NAMS 2022 statement has very specific language on this, that hormone therapy has actually been shown to either help make an SSRI, like a Prozac or whatever, work better, or in women who don't have an underlying mood disorder and their new first symptom is new onset of anxiety and depressed mood, the answer is actually not, the first line therapy should not be SSRI. It should be estrogen. And that's actually written in the literature and in the guidelines.
Wow.
And what happens instead is they're told, eat less, exercise more, focus on your sleep. And here's an SSRI, which drops their sex drive, which ruins their relationships, and nobody fixes their vaginas. And then they wonder why their relationships are falling apart and they have more anxiety and stress. It's a very vicious cycle. And it starts with an under recognizing that the mood disorders is actually a sign of the hormonal problem, the hormonal storm that's happening. And we have easy, simple ways that we can help these women.
So rage is real.
Rage is real, and women are really gaslit from this very symptom, and it precedes hot flashes normally.
Yeah.
So it's often missed and overlooked. Yeah.
Really important. So we don't have to be ashamed, right? If we
No.
are having these feelings and ripping people's heads off. And,
No, and you should say to your doctor, well, that's really interesting because in the Menopause Society position statement for 2022, there's a whole section on perimenopausal mood disorder. Do you know about that?
here it is. Print it out. You can give it to Sharon.
And no, and you put it there and say, I really want to have the discussion. And what's interesting, the psychiatrists, which you're going to hear from today, are getting on board with this. And I'm finding more and more of them are now saying like, hey, maybe you should talk to your GYN, talk to her about hormone therapy. I'm seeing that happen more, which is really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Dr. Sharon, you're about to speak my language here. Why am I gaining weight? And I'm sure I can't lose it. I have changed everything. I exercise regularly and I'm eating healthier, and I'm eating actually healthier than I ever have. What can I just say? WTF? Like, what's happening?
I get this question every day, multiple times a day. And, it's hard. It's hard to kind of go in that much depth in that amount of time. But I think it's just the overview of really what's happening, and it's not, it's where the weight gain is. It is central, we call it abdominal or visceral. It's deeper than when you gain weight when you're younger. That's superficial. And it's just difficult, but and everybody kind of gets that. Okay, weight gain is dependent upon calories in, calories out. How much do you exercise? But it's not just that. It's about this muscle mass balance with fat mass. And when estrogen declines, that's exactly what happens. Your muscle mass declines and your fat mass increases. And again, it goes toward that midsection. And it's just, it's frustrating for sure. So, and it also is the shape change, the shape from, being a little bit more hourglass to now apple. We can't, forget that we've talked about it before, but genetics are a big deal. They are. And so trying to reach a certain weight number or look may not be the case. You have to look at the overall, health of it and being healthy. And so, the family is family. You get what you get. Don't throw a fit. It's a song that's real. But the most important, and stress. I didn't want to forget about stress and sleep, as we've all been talking. Everything affects everything else, right? And the cortisol increasing. And so, but also remember that, just replacing estrogen may not do it all. You got to combine all of these things into it. But estrogen is a big deal. Estrogen, progesterone, whatever you may need. But also remember that, and it's easy to say, and it's easy to really feel like I can do this. I'm going to go out and do this. And you get home and life gets busy, crazy. So many other things are prioritized over this balance and trying to be better. Stick with it. I do this all the time. I get so busy and I'm exercise or stop exercising and I feel bad. And then I'm like, oh, I'll get to it later. Start with just one day a week, build up. If it goes down, build it back up. You can fluctuate. Just try to figure out that balance and stick with it.
It's really good. That's part of why I started the company, or because I needed something. At the end of the day, we have something. It's real. It's called, Harvard did a study called decision fatigue. So we've been deciding things all day long from the minute we wake up, and by the time you get to the end of the day, you start the day. I'm going to eat well. I'm going to move. I'm going to take the stairs. By the end of the day, you're like, where are the goldfish? The Cheetos. What macaroni and cheese was left on the plate? Scarf that too. So having something that you can go to keeps you out of what we call the killer C's, cookies, candies, and chips. You need to have a better choice for yourself because that's real. Good stuff. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, Dr. Vonda, can we talk about grip strength? This is actually my question. Does everyone understand I know, because I really want to do it, not necessarily live on this stage, just in case I don't perform well, but does everyone understand, have you heard, I should say, the importance of grip strength? And if you haven't, this is going to be one of the most important things that you hear. It is an indicator of longevity. Okay, I'm going to pass that to you. Okay, we just have a few minutes, and so this is a teaser. Okay, this is a 1 minute because this is a teaser, so you can hunt Dr. Vonda down later and say, test my grip strength. Okay, so 1 minute. Go ahead.
So this morning, the early birds, I went around and interrupted your meditation and said, let's measure your grip strength, which is literally how hard you can grip this thing I'm going to show you. Loss of grip strength is a predicator of all mortality death. And it tells us how strong we are, not in general. It's very well validated. So I made everybody, so whoever was here, I made them grab this thing, and I'm going to carry it around with me the next 3 days. We'll do yours, but you just squeeze until you grunt. And then we'll see. Oh, it's not on, but we'll see.
I want to see what yours
I can't
is.
tell you what it is.
I want to know
But there's a scale, right? So this is just a good way to say, how am I doing? But it's funny that you said this is not TV, because on national TV, people have let me measure their waist-hip ratio to tell us if we're apples or oranges. And I'll be carrying my tape measure around the boat. So if you're so brave as the lady that let me do it on that, I don't even know why she let me, but she did. Bless her heart, she's so courageous. But we'll do it. It's fun. But these are objective measures of where am I now?
It's good information, so don't judge yourself, whatever your score is. I'm speaking
It's
to
a
myself
number,
right
right?
now. Okay.
It's just a number.
Don't judge yourself. It's information. It's just a number, so you can build a plan around it, right? This is just the beginning. You get to start new every single day. Okay, speed round. Ready, team? Here we go. Number one, Dr. Mary Claire. This is for everyone. Quick answer here. What is a quick, funny story, short story, that you can share about menopause, your experience or a patient's?
Oh gosh. God, there's.
You're using 10 seconds now.
Okay.
No, stay, go.
I think the divorce story is my favorite. You know, I have a patient who's a divorce lawyer, and she said, I think half my patients, because she's from the South, but half her clients, you know, are divorced because they can't get their vaginas fixed. And, you know, and I shared that on social media, and the world went crazy. So, you know,
That's a good one.
little estrogen goes a long way.
Well, when you have 3 girls living with a mom going through menopause, and for one Christmas, all I got were things related to that to make mom feel better. I got a fan, bedside fan. You know, they sent me for a massage, got a mister. They knew what I was going through.
Trying to take care of mom. Good girls. Okay, Dr. Corrine.
Mine's a little graphic, but so I had, when I was in my in-person practice, she was probably around 65 years old, and she came in because she had a little bleeding, and this was before I was a good menopause practitioner. This was many, many years ago, and my kids were really little then. And so I was like, oh, we've got to do a pelvic exam. So I'm doing the pelvic exam, and I look inside, and I say, you know, Mary, I don't know how to say this to you, so I'm just going to say it. Did you put anything inside your vagina? And she said, no, Dr. Menn. And I said, okay. Well, I'm just going to describe what I see. I see slivers of almonds, you know, like, why are there slivers of almonds in there? And she says to me, I'm going to kill him. And I said, what? She goes, Dr. Menn, I have a lot of vaginal dryness. You know, she was, of course, not taking HRT. I was not a good menopause provider then. And she goes, my husband uses, we like to do oral sex with ice cream because it like is moisturizing to it and it's soothing. And this time he used Rocky Road. And as I picked out those little almonds, she was howling, laughing. She got dressed. I brought him in. We had a conversation. I said, stick to vanilla or chocolate. And that was probably 2006. My daughter was very little. And what I should have said, now let's make another appointment, since the insurance companies don't pay for that appointment to talk about menopause, and another separate appointment, and come on back, and we're gonna get you on some vaginal estrogen so that you don't need to use Rocky Road.
Better answer. I like the creativity, though, you have to say, but can I just jump in? I take all of our customer service chat, and in the beginning, when I was still new doing this, there was a chat that said, "Do your bars work for vaginal dryness?" And I'm like, well, and we only had double chocolate brownie then, and I'm like, well, the organic cacao nibs probably won't feel very good, so I would just skip it. No, 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 no. Okay, Dr. Vonda, go ahead.
I can't really follow those.
I know. Okay, that's good. It's good to know when you just like pass. Okay, going back this way, what's your number one tip to help women feel better now?
Let me write you a prescription for estradiol and micronized progesterone if you have a uterus.
Boom. Keep.
Well, because of course that's the answer that everyone wants to say too. That I'm going to take what she normally says. I'm going to say is literally you schedule lots of things in your lives. You go to you show up for your job, your kids. There is no excuse that you cannot find 15 minutes every single day, or at least 5 days a week, 15 minutes to lift some weights or go for a long walk. That's an easy thing that really we don't have an excuse not to
Walk,
give
walk,
15
walk.
minutes. And then you're going to make it longer, but you can do 15 minutes.
So, feeling better and finding these things, it all starts with advocate for yourself, talk to your doctor, your provider, and make a plan. And have your menopause around you to support you.
Right. Shout out to the menopause.
Yeah, we're all in the metaverse together, and each of us, all of us up here, will go through it, are going through it, or navigating it with you. This is real, and so most of what I do to make people feel better is tell them they're not crazy, and that goes such a long way. And we won't have to do that in the clinical office if we just talk about it. You'll know. Oh, my cousin had that, or that's part of menopause. Yeah, let's get you fixed up. Let's figure out how we're going to fix this. So.
Right. Beautiful. That's why we have to plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this conversation. So 4 or 5 other women don't have to feel crazy or ashamed or afraid of what is a natural transition. So clap for the doctors, and then let's answer some questions. Okay, who has the magic box here? Okay, please hold the box up to your mouth. That way we can make sure it gets recorded for all of the people watching.
It's not hot. Oh, hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Box.
I just knew it. Hello. When I was in peri-menopause, no, I'm going to back it up. I struggle with depression, and at one point in my mid-40s, I had depression, and I was bedridden for about a month and a half. I had to quit my job. I wasn't talking. I was crying. I just laid in bed. That's literally what I did until my husband spoke to a relative of mine who felt she could help and flew me to her, and which helped a bit. And then eventually, over a couple years, I slowly got better, but I just had that really, really low moment. And my mother, thinking back, had a very same.
I'm going to scoot you. I'm just going to say, so because we have a lot of questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, ask your question.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead.
the question is, what should I tell my daughter?
Yeah, there you go.
What should I tell my
There you go.
daughter?
Good. Yeah.
Mental health is not in a vacuum, okay? But there's a huge genetic component to this, and how your body processes serotonin and dopamine and estrogen. It all works together. And when her level starts declining, you've got to be on alert. And if she's not already having therapeutic options, both, with therapists or with pharmacology, thank God you know enough to talk to her, but not to be like, well, we'll see, like this is serious, and we can breeze you through this, more than likely, and you won't have to be bedridden and quit your job and probably suicidal if, having thoughts, those kind of thoughts, and that this is preventable. But we have to, we can't just wait for this to, be very, very proactive about this.
Thank you. That's a great question.
And
Our daughters. Yeah.
It starts, remember, these are, and again, too young, they're going to push you away, but 30s to 40, important.
Don't be afraid. My 22-year-old son sends me menopause influencers on TikTok. Mom, have you seen this woman? You know, so don't
It's
be
normalizing
afraid.
it. That's
yeah,
good. Yeah.
completely. Okay, we have one here. Thanks.
Weightlifting question. So if you're doing, like let's say you're doing 12 or 15 pound dumbbells and you're doing 12 or 15,
215 pounds.
no, 12 or 15.
You do not need any advice if that's what you're doing. Okay, yes.
Let's
12
just
to
say
15.
12 pound dumbbells and
Sure.
you're doing 12 to 15 reps. You said you needed to up it. So how many reps should you be doing? You said
Yeah.
if you can do 4 with good.
So the literature is really clear that for midlife, and I'm about to talk to you about this for 45 minutes, but the literature is very clear that we must lift heavy enough that we stimulate muscle protein synthesis, that we replicate our stem cells. The only way to do that is to not do 4 sets of 15 reps so that by the end you're like, oh, that's gone. So heavy is for each woman. It is what you can safely lift 4 times for 4 sets. Now there's a range. It's 3 to 6, blah, blah, blah. But let's make it easy. 4 times, 4 sets. And then the accompanying lifts, for instance, for the arms. So when I bench press, the accompanying ones, biceps, triceps, delts, traps, 8 reps, right? So it's not high volume, but it's heavy enough that you're going to stimulate muscle. So if you pick up your normal weight and you're doing 15 reps and you're getting there, I would bump it up and see what you can lift with good form. And I usually say we need to lift hard enough, as hard as our bones will let us. And I'll talk about this later, but that's what hard and heavy means. And there's great literature for that.
Excellent. Yeah, we're going to have Dr. Vonda next. I snuck her up here, so I cheated, but she's going to go deep on all of these questions. So, Jen.
Yeah, thank you. I have an underlying autoimmune thing that, of course, is like not diagnosed, but it causes this weird thing in my eye called episcleritis, and it's swollen, and I just feel so inflamed. But of course, like the doctors are like, we'll just put you on methotrexate. That should clear it up in the next 18 months or whatever. I'm like, I'm not doing that. But it goes away. But now lately it has been coming back more and more. And I just wonder if like in the range of symptoms of menopause, if it is more likely to trigger something that is an underlying autoimmune thing. It's just like I feel inflamed all the time.
Yeah, and certainly the inflammation, but particularly even the eye. We know that dry eyes are a symptom when the mucous membranes are drier places. You're going to be more prone if you have an underlying predisposition, and there is an inflammatory effect of the estrogen deficiency, right? I mean, this is, we often see it's not a coincidence that many autoimmune diseases are diagnosed in women around midlife. I'm not saying it's all caused by the estrogen loss, but it's certainly not helped. And if anybody has an autoimmune disease of any sort, understand hormone therapy is not a contraindication. And the estrogen deficiency, like Mary Claire's hand just went up, it's going up, right? I mean, you want to say more about the
And when I was researching for the new book, it was, especially rheumatoid arthritis, the data is very clear that, estrogen deprivation not only can lead to worsening, like pre-existing your disease was well controlled, you had your meds down or just the PRN meds, then all of a sudden you've done nothing different except start having, obvious estrogen deprivation symptoms, and your need for medication, the frequency of your autoimmune disease peaks. And so we need more research as to where HRT can be helpful. But here's what we know. Women who are on HRT have less flares, have less new diagnoses of all autoimmune disease than women who aren't.
Awesome. Okay, we have one last question for this session, representing the entire state of Mississippi. You got this. Bring us home.
So we were just
Hold
wondering.
up your.
Okay, we're talking about progesterone. Okay, why we need that in combination, and also if myself, total hysterectomy with HRT, the progesterone.
So progesterone is optional without a uterus, mandatory with a uterus, right? Or unless you have a Mirena IUD. And what? Yeah. So the lining of our uterus is the endometrium, right? And that's where the blood's made and where the babies grow and all that. When estrogen is just hitting that, we're dividing those cells, dividing those cells, dividing those cells. The more a cell divides, the more likely it is to become hyperplastic and cancerous. So that's called unopposed estrogen. That does cause endometrial cancer in a certain percentage of women. We learned that the hard way when we started giving women hormone therapy. Giving you a progestin or progestogen will negate that effect. You're fine. Okay, so we can either put a local little bit through a Mirena IUD in the uterus and take care of that. What we're learning now is that progesterone is kind of helpful in some other ways. So it's optional if you don't have a uterus or have a Mirena. It might be helpful for sleep. Who thinks it is really helpful for sleep? 300 milligrams of estrogen a night is treatment for hot flashes. It works great. And so, there's some benefits to it. And so I have to take it because I still have my baby bag. It's still there. And so I have to protect my lining, but I won't sleep as well without it, for sure. So I am recommending it or as an option to my patients without uteruses or who don't technically need it for endometrial protection, because there may be some benefits there, and it's very, very safe, especially the oral micronized progesterone.
Awesome.
And
Does that help?
It's a great option during perimenopause. Oh my goodness. People are very frustrated with that. And then going back to the old, birth control, the lowest dose can work for some, but some people are very hormone sensitive and because their estrogens are doing this. And so sometimes just that progesterone, and you can kind of taper it to how much and phases and what, and it really can help.
I think most OBGYNs underutilize progesterone in the perimenopause. There's not a lot of reasons for drug companies to talk about it because it's a generic medication. They're never going to do these flashy studies about progesterone, but we know it's very important. And I even think women who have a Mirena IUD, sometimes I'll give them a little bit of progesterone because the Mirena IUD, that progestin in that IUD is not necessarily suppressing ovulation like a birth control pill does, and it's not going to hurt you to have a touch of progesterone. And so, and it's often misunderstood by a lot of OBGYNs, I think.
Wow. Was that helpful? Burning questions? Hot, like literally burning? And that's a big one. Now, where's Jen? Because we're now at time, so I have to respect the time. So we have 2 minutes? Okay. So, Anne, can you say your question?
One second. We got to get it for the...
For the ladies in the back.
Sorry, so disruptive. I just wanted to really I think the perimenopause IUD birth control is so misunderstood. I have so many friends who've been on the IUD and are like, oh, I'm fine, or I can't tell. So can you just give a little course quickly on?
Well, yeah, we'll each do one of those. I'll say why the pill works, and you can do IUD and whatever. So the birth control pill, some women have a very negative ideas about it, and when it's offered to them for perimenopause, they're like, I don't want that, and that's okay. That's your choice. We can use hormone therapy, and but for some women, a lot of the symptomatology is coming from the crazy fluctuations of the hormones, and by just quieting that down by giving you an even dose of the estrogen and progestin every day, that can do wonders for many perimenopausal women. It's not the only choice. You don't have to wait until your last period to do regular hormone therapy, but the birth control pill can be an effective, very safe option.
The IUD I find very helpful in women that are bleeding, either very heavy, because all of these changes that can occur can be a spectrum, but especially those women that are having the heavier periods closer together, a lot of the PMS type symptoms. Placing that IUD usually shuts it down almost entirely. I mean, usually entirely, if not very, light periods. And then it's not suppressing the ovaries, so your ovaries are still working. And for most, that is very helpful and beneficial. So the IUDs can be a great option.
So I hate the demonization of birth control pills on social media. I think it's just gone absolutely crazy. The biggest difference between a birth control pill and menopause hormone therapy is dose. Okay? Birth control pills were developed to suppress ovulation so we don't get pregnant. We use them for a zillion other things because suppressing ovulation will help with acne, will help with a lot of things. Now, yes, it will suppress your testosterone. It's not perfect. There's risk benefits to everything. But the biggest difference is dose. Menopause hormone therapy traditionally was developed in doses to stop a hot flash. And it's a continuum. We have low dose menopause hormone therapy, middle dose, high dose, low dose birth control pill. It's a stair step. Now, chemical formulations may differ because Pharmaceutical companies make money. That's what they do. Okay. And they're going to put their money into what's going to make them the most, which is a new drug. Okay. And so most birth control pills are ethinyl estradiol. It's cheap, it's easy to make. You know, we now have a ton of generics. Whereas most menopause hormone therapy, the way we like to prescribe it, is estradiol, just plain what we would call body identical. They now have birth control pills that have estradiol, but they're not generic and they're very, very, very expensive. And so, you know, in a perfect world, we could just pick a dose, figure out what's going to suppress ovulation, because those studies have been done, you know, and then stick with estradiol really, and then, you know, use micronized progesterone for the progestin. But I need a soapbox.
So good. Well, remember, we do have Wednesday, coming back? Yeah. Wednesday for more classes and ask more questions. And now you've had a good taste of some things so write down your questions so you come armed. We'll make sure you have extra time. We're going to have a lot of questions at the next session. So thank you, everyone. I hope you had your questions answered. Shout out for the doctors. We're going to take where's Jen? A 2-minute break and come back right here with Dr. Vonda. And we're going to go deeper on grip strength,